The question was, what is today's slavery? And I bet you can already guess what my answer was. A couple weeks ago, I'm having lunch with a couple of history geek friends of mine, and the conversation eventually fell on that. Now, this is probably a conversation you've had before, right? Like, when the people of the 25th century or whatever look back on us, what commonplace institution will they look back at the way we look at slavery now? You know, what aspects of our everyday life will they look back on and say, how the hell did people ever think it was okay to do that? And, you know, a few of the usual suspects get offered up. Meat eating, opposition to gay marriage, full contact sports was one of them. And then it's my turn, right? So I give them the best, you already know what I'm going to say, look, before I offer up religion. Now, the immediate reaction was a bunch of sighs and rolling eyes and expressions that said, damn it, you fanatic, can't you dislike something else for a minute? And this was followed by a series of objections so vacuous that I was starting to wonder if the waiter had drugged our salsa. My buddy John goes, are you trying to say that religion is as bad as slavery? Which is fucking insane coming from the guy whose answer was MMA. So I politely reminded him, that's not the question. You know, Howard, the lone theist at the table, demanded that I point to one single immoral thing about religion, but very quickly rescinded that challenge. And then Ian, the peacemaker, he says, well, one way or the other, I think it's a little utopian. Like it or not, religion will always be there. So I politely reminded him that slavery is still there too. Again, not the question. But he dug in. He says, unlike meat eating, opposition to marriage equality, and full contact sports, religion serves a fundamental human need. Now, I'm sure he was trying to make some other point, but it seemed to me that he was just pointing out that I had the best answer because slavery served the fundamental human need too, several of them. And it's no coincidence that the abolishment of slavery started right after the Industrial Revolution and in the same country. You know, people no doubt recognize the immorality of slavery throughout history, but it wasn't until we found something that could replace the need for it that we actually got rid of it. We love to think about it like it was a triumph of uncompromising morality against this, you know, corrupt and entrenched institution. And certainly there was a lot of that, but the abolition of slavery was much more a response to market forces. You know, slavery didn't get any more immoral in the 19th century. It's just that the need for cheap human labor changed dramatically. In other words, the bulk of the opposition to slavery was formulated along the lines of, they're taking our jobs. And I think about that every time I hear people declare religion's infinitude, because I'm sure people said the same thing about slavery. It's always been there, it always will be. Look, even atheists tend to reinforce the claim with appeals to the fundamental human needs that religion serves without the slightest recognition that their own existence refutes that claim. I mean, sure, it serves all kinds of human needs, but obviously those same needs can be served by other things, or we couldn't exist. And in the same way that technology slowly eradicated our need for slavery, the 40 million humans who still live in slavery notwithstanding, it can and will do the same thing with our need for religion. And not in some far-off utopian dream either. It's been happening for centuries now. I mean, any of us could easily point to a dozen former functions of religion that are now better served by a secular alternative. And the idea that science is somehow going to stop doing that, or that there are going to be certain functions that will always be better served by religion, it seems to me that that's in more need of explanation than the assertion that science is just going to continue to do what it's been doing, answering questions and solving problems, and religion will continue to do what it's been doing. Nothing. Seems to me that science can't help but win that race, right? I mean, think about it. What's the biggest function of religion for most people? At least in the U.S., I just submit that it's their fear of mortality, right? Both their own mortality and the mortality of the people they love. And religion offers them a way out of that. You know, just set aside your reason in this instance, and you get to believe that you're going to visit grandma again when you die. Now, a cynical person might look at what I'm saying and say, yeah, okay, fine. If science ever gives us immortality, well, then maybe religion will disappear at that point. But that's giving religion way too much credit. Because religion doesn't actually give people immortality, it just promises it to them. And every religious person that ever cried at a funeral admitted to you just how shallow a respite that promise offered them. Hell, technology has already given us better immortality than religion, and I'd like to enter this diatribe as Exhibit A. You know, think about a kid born tomorrow, grows old, has kids, has grandkids, then she dies. Her son's missing her, so he pays some service, right, that digs through the internet archives and finds her old Facebook posts and her tweets and her YouTube videos, and it tells you what songs she favorited when she was a kid, and it's got recordings from the band that she played with in college and the blog that you never knew she started. That's real. That exists, and you don't have to wait until you die to get it. The point is, the need for heaven will always be inversely proportional to how good the real world is. And that's what makes the atheist mission so noble, by the way. We all know that the only way we can get there is to give people more control over their lives, to alleviate their suffering, to lessen scarcity, to advance knowledge, and by so doing, eradicate their need for God. And if you want to dampen that hope by placing it at some impossibly distant point on the chronological horizon, I simply remind you that you exist. You are proof of concept. And apart from the extraordinarily high IQ and exemplary genitals, you're no different from everybody else. You have the same fundamental needs they do, and you're able to satisfy them all with no God. And ultimately, that's why I think the death of religion is more than possible. It's inevitable. You know, all the things that you're using to serve those God needs and shit, those are only going to get better while religions stay the same. And meanwhile, religion's promises might get bigger, but that's just going to make their results seem all the more disappointing. You know, you keep running that forward, and it's not going to take long for everybody to realize that eating a morsel is better than imagining a feast.